Good morning, everyone. Welcome to AM Lockport. Today is July 8th, and our meeting is starting here at 7 a.m. We all logged in fairly early, and I believe the inspiration everyone agreed to was ice cream. You scream, we all scream for ice cream, which I thought was great. I do remember yelling that as a child. So, with a hot week, I can't wait for this subject. But before we do that, we're going to go ahead and start with the pledge. If you go ahead and mute, and I'll lead. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. With that, I don't have any announcements to start the meeting with today. One thing I do have is a thank you to the people who reached out to me during the week to help me out with a special project. Thank you very much. You'll remain anonymous, but your help is appreciated. And with that, I'm going to turn the meeting over to our Toastmaster of the day, former president, Larry McKenzie. Larry.
Thank you very much, Mr. President, and welcome to everyone. Today's theme, ice cream, you scream, we all scream for ice cream. What? Well, I have to tell you, first of all, yesterday I was screaming because I looked at the agenda and I said, oh my gosh, I need some help. I thought, well, maybe if I offered ice cream cones, that everyone would fill in their roles. That didn't have to happen because we filled in almost all the roles today, and we'll get into our role holders right now. And let's find out who. Let's see. Dr. Gerald, do you have, first of all, a word for us today? And tell us your favorite ice cream flavor.
I don't know if that's possible to pick just one ice cream flavor, but I do like Lake Effect's Paula Donuts ice cream. That was pretty cool. The word of the day, fellow Toastmasters, is delicious, delicioso, if you prefer Portuguese. I prefer that one. So I will accept any variant of the word delicious, which means highly pleasant to the taste, Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you very much, Dr. Gerald. What a delicious word of the day. And speaking of delicious, let's see. Let's go on to our next role. Our Master. Filling in today, let's see, our Master, Sylvia Baptiste. Sylvia, tell us what your job is today, please.
Well, this morning I will be listening for Oz owns pregnant pauses and report on that at the end of the day. Also filler words. Would you like me to go into adjust?
That would be phenomenal. Thank you.
Okay. As I was looking this up while we were talking earlier, why do British ice cream cones carry an umbrella? There's always a chance of a sprinkle.
Oh.
Why do you never meet a workaholic ice cream? They've always known how to chill out. I remember these are kids. They love ice cream, just like I. It is delicious, the chocolate one, though. You didn't ask my favorite, so I just told you. The chocolate's the most delicious in my book. What's the best band to listen while eating ice cream? Music lovers, Spoon. I'll end with that. Thank you.
Thank you, Sylvia. We appreciate your jest this morning. And with that, our president today has stepped in as our grammarian. He's going to be filling that role and also telling us his favorite ice cream. And that would be Thomas Heldine.
Yes, thank you, Larry. I have a very special flavor of ice cream. It's called Panda Paws because it has these little chocolate shaped, treats in it filled with peanut butter, and they're shaped like a little paw. And I think it's maybe marketed to kids, but I know adults love it as well. If you get the ones with the little chocolate chips in it too, that's delicious. And of course, you always have to have rainbow sprinkles. As grammarian today, I'm going to be taking note of any exceptional or poor uses of the American English grammars, which right there is a poor example. Poor examples of English grammar. Back to you. Hopefully that was a delicious explanation, Larry.
Thank you, Thomas. That was quite a interesting, deliciously presented explanation. Thank you so much. Today, our quote of the day will be by Jennifer Zapla. Jen, give us a quote.
Yes, I am here and I have a couple of quotes to share with you today. One of them is, without ice cream, there would only be darkness and chaos, by Don Cardong. So that's pretty profound. But for those of you who I know, everyone's favorite quote, person to quote, the unknown or anonymous, I am bringing you this other quote. You can't buy happiness, but you can buy ice cream, and that is pretty much the same thing. My favorite ice cream, Mr. Toastmaster, varies quite drastically from season to season or day to day even. In the freezer right now, I have some cookie butter ice cream. In the fall, you'll definitely find me looking for the best pumpkin ice cream. And there are several other varieties in between that I like to try out throughout the season. Thank you.
Thank you, Jen. Also today, one of the most important things too is time, especially when you're eating an ice cream cone, because you have to time it perfectly so those drips don't fall down the sides of the cone. And with that being said, our timer today, Len Thornton, tell us what your role is and also your favorite flavor.
Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster. Well, timing is important with ice cream because there is the risk of brain freeze if you eat it too fast. Always watch out for that. I experienced that just last weekend, as a matter of fact. After all these years, you'd think I'd know how to eat ice cream. My favorite of which is mint chocolate chip with heavenly hash coming in a close second. My job is timer today. I will timetable topics at 1.5, 1 3/4, and 2 minutes with a 15-second buffer. You'll see my colors change in the background to green, amber, and red. For evaluations, it's 2, 2.5, and 3 minutes with a 30-second buffer. And unless I'm told differently, speeches will be 5, 6, and 7 minutes for the color coding. And I'm also be doubling as quizmaster today. I will be taking note of any little trivia that should pop up during the meeting, and I will test you at the end to see if you're all paying attention. Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you very much, Len, and thank you for pulling double duty for me today. And speaking of double duty, our tech and jester master today is Marty Johnson. Marty, tell us about your role and also tell us your favorite flavor of ice cream. Marty.
Good morning. Thank you, Larry. Fellow Toastmasters, good morning, everyone. As Tech and Gesture Master, I will be doing just that. I will be looking for people that have wonderful uses of the technology, some possibly some suggestions for people that may need a little help. And for gestures, I'll be watching for hand gestures, facial expressions used while members are speaking at any time in the meeting. I honestly do not have a favorite type of ice cream. As Larry and Kate know, at our Buffalo Flyers meeting a couple weeks ago, I told them about a story when I was a young boy and I stepped off the curb at a local ice cream parlor. I think it was out on West Avenue where I think it's where the credit union is now. And I stepped off the curb and the ice cream hit the pavement. So ever since then, I love any type of ice cream. Back to you, Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you very much, Marty. Now, before we go into some of our other roles, one of the most important things to talk about is everyone enjoys ice cream. But here's the thing. Where did it come from? There is a lot of controversy. So let me see if I can delve into some of that. And ice cream, like food, was first eaten in China in around 1618 to 97. King Tang of Shang, which sounds like a DJ, King Shang of Shang, had 94 icemen who helped to make a dish that was made out of buffalo milk, flour, and camphor. Now, doesn't that make you sound like, I want to have some of that? It's a kind of ice cream that was invented in China about 200 BC when milk and rice mixture was frozen by packing it into the snow. Now, a little later on, there became this item which was called cream ice, as it was called. It appeared regularly on the table of Charles I, and he was from the 17th century. And in France actually introduced a similar frozen dessert in 1553. But here's the thing. The Italian, Catherine, now this goes out to all my Italian friends, an Italian, Catherine de' Medici, when she became the wife of Henry II of France in 1660, she brought it and actually introduced it and made it available to the general public. So as the Golden Cone, we're going to give away the award today. And after defrosting some of that old history, we can now sum up that ice cold facts that ice cream was invented by China. It was introduced into the Western world by Italy, and it was made accessible to the general public in France. Who knew? And speaking of who knew, our general evaluator today, the person who will be evaluating not only our meeting, but also our Toastmaster, that is Moklis Raman. Moklis, tell us a little bit about what you're going to be doing, Mr. General Evaluator.
Good morning, Mr. Toastmaster Larry McKenzie and all the friends attending. My favorite ice cream was or is still butter pecan. And second close was pistachio, but I don't find pistachio anymore, so I'm stuck with butter pecan. My role today is to evaluate the total meeting. And what is the reason to evaluate? To suggest improvements. As we attend Toastmasters meeting, our primary purpose is to continuous improvement. In that process, I will be giving feedback to Toastmasters and the 3 evaluators and overall meeting procedure. So far, it's been a delicious beginning with all the different flavors of each of the speakers so far. So hopefully we'll end up with a deliciously flavorful meeting, and I will give you feedback. Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you very much, Moklis, and we will look forward to coming back to you in just a little bit. And just a little housekeeping. I do notice that our evaluator number 1, Jill, is not yet in the meeting, but in the event that we'll give her a little bit of time just to see if she's late logging on. But we may need an evaluator number 1, so think about that there, and we'll come back in a little bit, and we'll see what kind of deliciousness we can be served up this morning by our table topics master. And our table topics master is David Jones. David, take it away.
Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster. Good morning, fellow Toastmasters and guests. My favorite ice cream would be Fish Food by Ben & Jerry's, but I do not have that in my freezer anymore. I've lost about 15 pounds in the past 2 months, so trying to stay away from that. I think that was my main contributor to gaining weight. Let's get to our table topics, and I want to start with Chris. Are you ready, Chris? I want to be speaker number 3 because that's like you have time to wake up, but Toastmasters is a good start. Chris, whenever I think about the ice cream Rocky Road, my mind always goes to Weird Al Yankovic's parody song from I Love Rock and Roll. What references do you have to ice cream over your lifetime?
Well, thank you for that. My mind is drawing a complete blank. I don't recall any references. I'm sure there's one that we've used. My background is in dancing, so I'm sure there's been dancing songs that we've used for shows over the years. If you can picture little kids with ice cream cones dancing and tapping away, singing a song about ice cream, I just cannot for the life of me remember what that song is. Lollipops popped to mind. Ice cream does not. So I'm sorry to say that that's as best as I can do. But I can say that on the topic of favorite flavors, my favorite flavor is vanilla, French vanilla. It's a very bland, medium flavor, but I do like different types, different companies like Ben and Jerry's. Their Chunky Monkey was one of my favorites, and Lake Effect is one of my favorite ice cream places here. And I was hoping that any of this talk of delicious ice cold ice cream would jog my memory this early in the morning. It is just not going to happen. So with that, I'm hoping I have up to my time, and I'm going to end that there. Thank you.
Thank you. Perfect. It's always a joy when you get that green light. And you're like, yes, I'm done. Good morning, Margot. Are you ready?
As usual.
Perfect.
If it's table topics and I don't have a job, it's Margot.
There you go. Now, when you think of ice cream, it's just not ice cream. For instance, several years ago, we had done a European cruise, and our little tradition was that every stop we would stop and get gelato. It was very delicious. And thinking about yogurt or gelato or ice cream, do you have any memories that are triggered by ice cream or any of those items throughout your travel history?
Well, thank you for this opportunity to speak and use the word delicious in regards to ice cream. I can't think of a better word to use today. It's an excellent word for us to have. My memory of ice cream actually is triggered in a slightly different way. Some of you may remember that a few years back, my daughter was the Dairy Princess. And as Dairy Princess, we had to go around and make milk punch. And I don't know if you've ever been blessed with milk punch, but to make milk punch, you put milk in a bowl, you add vanilla ice cream, and Chris, I'm very sorry to tell you, you then add powdered Kool-Aid in whatever flavor you want and mix it together. And that is milk punch. So every time we went to the county legislature, a meeting, we had to make this milk punch. And everybody told us how delicious and wonderful it was. Now, if you want to know a food I have not had since 2002, when she gave up the Dairy Princess, it's milk punch. Every time I go to a function, Farm Bureau, whatever, I do avoid having that lovely food. I'm not sure who thinks it's delicious. And I have since learned there are other recipes, but that was the one that we were required to use for that entire year. And I'm loving watching everybody's face, imagining what that would be. But my other memory of Janet doing that actually is because she was so active and did so many things. She won the promotion award and actually got a $500 scholarship because she had more newspaper articles and presentations over that year. And for those of you who were around then, part of it was because she came to Toastmasters and practiced her presentation and got feedback from all of you. So that's my memory of ice cream, Madam Mr. Table Topics Master.
Thank you. And that does sound really horrible with Kool-Aid in it. Let me see what Jackie Kennedy, who evidently is no relation to Jackie Kennedy. I'm sure you all have seen it because you're New Yorkers, but the show King of Queens, at the very opening, you know, the little monologue thing they have, he's always eating ice cream and he drops it, and his wife's so disappointed. And that always makes me laugh. I could watch it 100 times, I still crack up. What laugh over or, you know, stomach laughing memories do you have regarding to ice cream? Do you have?
Thank you, Mr. Table Topics Master. I don't know that I have memories of ice cream that include deep laughter, but I have enjoyed ice cream all my life. The The only music, to go back to your first question, I can think of is the song that the ice cream truck plays when it goes around neighborhoods. That doesn't happen very often anymore. But one of my most fond memories of ice cream is the stop that my school bus used to make. Going into Lockport from East Amherst, I had kind of a long bus ride for high school every day. And in the summertime, our very kindly bus driver, Dave Bedford, would occasionally stop at Tasty Treat, as it was called then, out on transit on our way home. And if you happened to have a little bit of change in your pocket, you could hop off the bus and have ice cream. I'm sure he'd be arrested if he did that today without parental permission and signed statements allowing children to get off the bus for ice cream and guarding against any possible allergies and all kinds of other things. But that bus stop was the most fun ever. Hopping off, having a delicious cold cone, and enjoying friendship. So that's my favorite memory. Thank you, Mr. Table Topics Master.
Thank you, Jackie. I appreciate it. And can we get a timers report for our speakers?
You may indeed, Mr. Topic Master. I am pleased and proud to report that all three of our contestants, Chris, Margot, and Jackie, qualified. Chris at 134, Margot at 147, and Jackie at 142.
Perfect. Thank you. And how about our word master? How did our three contestants do this morning?
Mr. Table Topics Master, I had two people say the word, but my internet's been spotty, so maybe the gallery can help. I heard Margot twice and Jackie once. Chris, I did not hear the word delicious. I don't know if anybody else heard it.
I did at the very end. Right
Very
at the very
end.
end.
Okay,
Right.
very good. Then
She
see,
snuck it
Chaz, I
in
knew I needed
somehow.
help. Very good. But other participants who used it, Larry twice, Sylvia once, Tom Heldwin once, Moklis, and David. Good job all, and continue to use the word of the day, delicious, as much as you can in your speeches. Mr. Table Topics Master.
Thank you, and thanks for all for participating. And back to you, Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you very much, David, for your delicious presentation of table topics this morning. If you notice, your poll is up for table topics. Feel free to vote and see who your favorite was for that. Excuse me. And while we're going on, I did ask earlier if people would offer their favorite flavor. Well, here's an interesting fact about ice cream. What was the very first ice cream flavor that was ever invented? Does anybody know? Nobody knows.
I want to say vanilla.
Vanilla is, well, no, not really. As history goes, now this may not be a true fact, but it's something I saw in the bathroom reader, so it possibly could be true. The very first flavor was orange blossom. It was ice cream that was eventually made, that made its way to the New World in the 18th century. And the first advertisement for ice cream appeared in the New York Gazette on May 12th, 1777. And here's a fact. Our president, George Washington, allegedly spent $200 on ice cream in the summer of 1790. Who'd have thought way back then? And the top ice cream consuming countries of the world. Does anybody know who's number one? Not the US, not the US. New Zealand is the number one ice cream consuming country in the entire world, followed closely by the United States and then Australia. Who'd have thought? So we have our poll in for our table topics. And with that, what we're going to be doing is we're going to be moving into our speeches. And I do notice that our first evaluator, Jill Roaring, is not here this morning as of right now. And she was going to be evaluating Carol Ann. Do I have a volunteer as a an evaluator this morning for Carol Ann. And what we'll do is we're going to move Carol Ann down in the lineup to number 3. That way her evaluator will have an opportunity to check with her. So Moklis will jump in.
I
Yes.
suggest David Licata be the evaluator. He hasn't had a role.
Oh, David, would you like to evaluate Carol Ann for us this morning?
I'll be happy to.
Thank
I
you,
was in
Mr.
New Zealand. I was in New Zealand, and they have a favorite ice cream. I don't remember the name, but much to my surprise, as I got a cone of this flavor, I felt so at home because it tasted like sponge candy. So it had a real toffee base. I was informed by my host in New Zealand that when New Zealanders can't get this particular flavor, they're depressed for days.
Oh my
So
gosh.
I can't remember. Something like Cracker Jack. I think that was the name of the flavor, and it had a lot of toffee in it, so it tasted like sponge. I'll be happy to evaluate Carol Ann. I have no idea what she's going for though, and maybe
Well,
she can do a brief explanation.
Yep. Actually, what I'm going
And
to
I'll
do
be
is
all-
I'm going to move Carol Ann to the number 3 speaker. That'll give you and her an opportunity, perhaps either in the chat, to discuss her
I'm on my
speech.
phone. My phone doesn't do chat. It does
Okay.
about 3 words.
All righty. I'll tell you what, David, since you're on the roll, Carol Ann, if you'll unmute for me. Carol Ann is unmuting. And we're having fun with our ice cream flavors today. And it's a delicious meeting so far. And I've got some more interesting facts that I'll share with you in just a little bit. Carol Ann, I'll tell you what we're going to do today. We're going to go completely full circle. And because David Licata jumped in as your evaluator this morning, Carol Ann, let all of us know what speech you're going to be doing, your title, and David is going to pay close attention so that he's ready to evaluate you. Carol Ann.
I'll be doing a speech in the presentation mastery area, and I am doing it from the storytelling aspect. And my title is Doggone Cattails.
All righty.
All right.
My favorite wait a minute. My favorite flavor is butter pecan, and Jen Zappa, I believe it was Hokey Pokey. Thank you.
All right. So David Licata is going to be prepared to evaluate our first speaker today, and I will introduce her. Carol Ann will be presenting a speech from the Presentation Mastery, 5 to 7 minutes, storytelling. Her title, Doggone Cattails. Doggone Cattails, Carol Ann Halstead.
The first family pet we had was a gray tomcat named Tiny. My parents had the cat before I was even born, and they said the cat was very gentle with me. However, once one of my cousins talked me into picking up the cat on the stairs. Well, I ended up at the bottom of the stairs, got a big black eye. It was a Labor Day weekend, so my mother didn't get me into the doctor for a couple days. And he took one look at me and put me in the hospital to get an x-ray and kept me in there, I don't know, 3 or 4 days for observation, but I was fine. Then when I was about 10 years old, the cat, who wandered a lot, being a tomcat, didn't come home for quite a while. So my father started cruising the streets and unfortunately found the cat against the curb a couple streets over. Then we didn't get another pet for quite a while. And one day my mother came home and said a coworker wondered if we could take her dog. And we agreed to it. We had a fenced in yard. the problem was the dog did not like my father. I think maybe a man in the past had been mean to her or whatever, but she eventually became my father's pet. And she was very jealous of his attention. And one time he brought a bird in that had been injured and put it down in the basement in a box. And anytime he went to the basement door, that dog was right there. And one time he brought the bird up, thought, well, maybe I'll just let the dog see the bird. Well, of course, the dog promptly knocked the bird out of his hand. And like I said, they became very close. And in fact, Susie died of old age, actually in my father's arms. Very sad day. Then when my husband and I got married, we moved. When he was living, he and his dad lived in a house and had this big dog, Sandy. I moved into the house. And the first night I was there, and Sandy, the dog, realized that I was there to stay. He hopped right up on the bed and just was so happy about it. And he loved the farm. We lived in the city of Lockport, but the farm we have in East Wilson. And he just loved going down there. He would actually learned how to pick melons. He put his paw on the stem and pushed it off with his nose. And he would follow my husband around when he was on the tractor. However, he liked to go across the road to visit the dogs over there. And one day, unfortunately, he didn't make it across. And the vet said he was a large dog, being part golden and retriever and part black lab and part beagle. So he had beagle ears and shorter legs, but the vet said large dogs are injured more because they're not thrown. So anyway, we lost him that day. And then we entered the black and white era, the black and white cats, that is. Our first one was Tiffany, who belonged to a neighbor, but kept coming over to be with my youngest daughter. And she even was able to put him in a little baby carriage and push her around. And sometimes then the cat finally moved in with us, but it was an outdoor cat. And some evenings, my husband and I would go for a walk around the block. The cat would follow us. And then if we got too far ahead, it would meow. And so the problem with that cat was she lived to a ripe old age, but died the day before our middle daughter's wedding. And then we got Comet. Actually, when we still had Tiffany didn't like Comet. But they would lay together sometimes, and sometimes they would fight, and Tiffany would hiss. But every day when I got home from work, Tiffany and Comet ran down to the end of the driveway to greet me, just like dogs. But one time with Comet, one morning, early in the morning, about 2 a.m., we knew something was wrong. It seemed to be in distress. His legs weren't working. And we had to go to the vet at 2 a.m. to an emergency vet. And unfortunately, he had a saddle clot, which proved to be a reason to put him to sleep. And then now we have Miska, a girl cat. Miska is Mickey in Russian. And he really is close to my youngest daughter, but she is not friendly. Was an outdoor cat until she got on the roof, up a tree, ran across the road, and then came home with a puncture wound one time. So the vet told us, if you want to keep this cat and save money, I think it better become an indoor cat, which she is. And she actually has a little stuffed pink bear that sometimes she carries around in her mouth. But that is my doggone cattail story. But I will finish with the fact that I like vanilla ice cream. Maybe it's a dull flavor, but it's my favorite. Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you very much, Carol Ann. This morning, all the way from Massachusetts, we're bringing in Tom Moran, our evaluator number 2, and Tom will be evaluating, are you ready for it? Phil Russell this morning. So Tom Moran, tell us a little bit about what Phil's going to be doing this morning.
Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster. This morning, I printed out the objectives for Phil's speech. He posted it online, and I have thoroughly reviewed it because I'm under a lot of pressure this morning. Phil is my cousin and a DTM, and that's just the way it goes. But I thought I'd put myself out there and see if how I did evaluating my cousin. About his speech. The member will deliver a well-organized speech. He may choose to speak about an aspect of lessons learned meeting his or her experience as a leader, the impact of leading a team, or any other topic that he or she finds appropriate. The speech must relate in some way to the member's experience as a leader. The speech may be humorous, informational, or any other style the member chooses. The topic should support the style the member has selected. The speech should not be a report of the content of lessons learned project. So it's lessons learned from the Pathways program that we'll be listening to Phil present this morning. I don't have a title, Mr. Toastmaster, so I'm leaving that to you. My favorite ice cream since I've moved up here, of course, is Moose Tracks. It's very popular up here, and I've actually seen a moose, so I feel somewhat of an allegiance to that ice cream. And it's also very good. So thank you, Mr. Toastman.
Thank you very much, Tom. This morning, after close evaluation and much research, we have Phil Russell this morning in his continuing education on Living to 100. Today is wealth. Living to 100, wealth. And that will be Phil Russell. Please welcome him.
Well, who's the wealthiest out there? Who is the wealthiest out there? In the cemetery, that is. A lot of times people think of wealth. All they think of is money and finance. Well, in my experience, I look at a little bit deeper than just money. Money is an object we have, and if you go to the cemetery, you'll look around, none of them took it with them. They might have great monuments, but they did not take it with them. So in my opinion, what is wealth? Let's start off with Beth Banks said to me she really wanted to hear about wealth. Well, let me tell you something. In my estimation, Beth is one of the wealthiest people out there. Why? Family. That family went and started the Celtic Festival. What a fun thing. And they all work together. They have a good time. That's so important to living to a long, ripe old age, having a close-knit family. It's so important that we have that. And so, in my estimation, Beth is very, very wealthy with her family. Let's move on. Let's talk about Jackie for a moment. Jackie put a quote in this morning. Let me read it to you. I saw it on the Facebook. Golf is more important about the people you play with than the score you keep. How true that is. Now, that was for the Cancer Society. They're having a golf tournament, but it's about the friends you have. The more friends you have, the wealthier you are. You may only have one or two very close friends during your lifetime, if you're lucky, 3 or 4. But if you have a great deal of acquaintances that you can surround yourself with and have fun with and be happy with, that will keep you healthy. And that is my number 2, or one of the most important things about being wealthy, is having great friends. It's amazing how friends can build you up and keep you happy. Let's talk about activity. Right here, we're in a big activity. It's called Toastmasters. It's one of the best activities I've ever belonged to. Because why? You make new friends, you have family members that are here, you have all these things that are included, and you get in and tell stories. They could be great stories, sad stories, funny stories, but they all meld in together, and we have our family, our friends, and we're active about it. It's amazing. When we think about the money, the finances, that's my last. Give me a break. Money is important to be able to do the things we want during our life, but it's still last. Now, I'm going to tell you about one more thing that I think it's in the story of it. Knowledge. Knowledge, to me, is extremely important the longer we live. Now, there's 2 philosophies that I learned in a philosophy class. One is that we were born with all the knowledge in the universe, and we just have to bring it out of our brain. The other one is that our brain is a clean slate. There's nothing up there. And we learn it as we go along. And we can learn all the knowledge. But it's so important to have knowledge. Now, in fact, there's a saying, a wealth of knowledge. Have you ever heard of that? It's a wealth of knowledge. It's right in the saying of knowledge, wealth of knowledge. This is so important as well. All these things, when you read, there was just an article I read about, are you going to live to be 100? Well, what did it mention? Well, you better have friends and family. You better be active. Maybe you're the life of the party. Maybe you just like to go to the party and enjoy yourself. Knowledge, all of them were in there. So I'm not just making this up. This is something that's out there for every one of us. It's the doctors know this. When you're talking about your health, the doctors want to know, how active are you? Do you have friends? Do you have family? It's the poor person that has gotten away from their family and friends, and they just are alone. Imagine that. That's not wealth. As far as money, you want to be wealthy? Start a business. Do something. I know people that are extremely wealthy and very happy. I know people that are not so financially well off and are just as happy. So money is about the last thing to worry about in that. So let me ask you one more time. Who's the wealthiest out there? Who's the wealthiest out there? Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you very much, Mr. Russell. Now, what I want to do before we introduce our third evaluator and third speaker is let everyone know that you have an opportunity to let each one of the speakers know exactly what you thought and how you enjoyed their speeches today. And you can do that through the private chat directly to them. And I encourage you to do so. And after our third speaker, I will give everyone a couple of moments to complete doing that for all three of our speakers. But without further ado, let's welcome our third evaluator this morning, Kate Banks Orr, and she will be evaluating Samir Rahman. Please welcome Kate.
Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster. Can you hear me okay? Great. I had some technical difficulties this morning. I am excited to be evaluating Samir. He is working on an elective at level 4 from the Pathway Leadership Development. And the elective is Public Relations Strategies. This is appropriate as he is our new VP of Public Relations. The length, Mr. Timer, is 5 to 7 minutes, and the two purposes are to practice the skills needed to effectively use public relations strategies for any group or situation, and to share some aspect of his or her public relations strategy. Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster.
Kate, do you have Samir's title?
I sure do. I will introduce him. I have Samir Rahman, Dynamic PR for the, future of AM Lockport, Public Relations for the Dynamic Future of AM Lockport, Samir Rahman.
Thank you, Kate and Toastmaster Larry. What is public relations? It's the practice of creating, promoting, and maintaining a favorable image of an individual, organization, or cause, often with a specific audience in mind. Well, geez, that kind of sounds like the standard setup for a speech itself, really. If you look at any of our checklists or handouts. Unfortunately, PR has many negative perceptions, often due to crisis consultant dramatized in TV shows. My personal most recent binge being What Flax on Amazon about British PR flax. But there's some branding for you. A show that has a lot of PR in it. Oh, and one more thing I forgot. PR is done for free because otherwise it's considered advertising or marketing, which is why the TV trope would probably be more aptly termed crisis management these days. Although technically that kind of crisis management is still a part of public relations. Hopefully our club never actually needs that kind of PR. But enough about definitions and the various public perceptions of PR itself. What does it mean here and now for us? Well, it's a way we can achieve our club success plan and create a brighter, more dynamic future for the club. Toastmasters International brands itself as where leaders are made. And at the local level, that's definitely something we can lead with in some of our materials. And I've definitely had that drilled into me via our numerous trainings, the international brand manuals, and the various VP of PR handbooks. Some components that comprise this are press releases, interviews, special events, and of course, social media. That's all typical fare, which can all provide a compelling lead-in to get interested people who are leadership or public speaking oriented. But there are other ways to get good PR too. So many members have joined through word of mouth and personal connections. And I truly believe that the best way to advocate for anything is to have a close friend or acquaintance suggest it. Luckily nowadays, we have so many communications platforms that it's pretty easy to take a moment while browsing one of these psychologically addictive content mills and think of those close to us who could use a little more confidence, or perhaps someone who needs a chance to strengthen their voice so they can be understood more clearly, or maybe just someone who actually is struggling with speaking in public. And then you can reach out to them and suggest that they attend a meeting when they can, just to check it out, hey, they might like it. All of us do. A way to add some dynamism to the process is to have some members like you share club posts, as well as excerpts maybe from these recorded meetings on your own personal platforms, be it social media or elsewhere. When something like a speech or a table topics response speaks to you personally, or maybe you can also think of someone who something or some topic might specifically appeal to. I know many people in our lives enjoy cats, so maybe one of today's speeches. Um, People are also concerned with wealth, or maybe people just like delicious ice cream and they'd have fun watching our meeting. It can add a more dynamic aspect to our standard outreach efforts by sharing it. A lot of us spend a lot of time crafting these creative ways to express our perspectives and our stories, and it really shows in every meeting. We have so many accomplished, effective communicators who regaled us over the years with many entertaining anecdotes, in addition to profound life lessons that can give us perhaps a new lease on life if we really consider what they're saying. Each of us is a unique individual, and all of those around us are too. So all of us can contribute in myriad ways to showcasing the diversity of experiences that bring us to and that we gain from AM Lockport. Now, some of you might be wondering how any of these messages could possibly get through such a saturated media environment, with every product, politician, or paid streaming service fire hosing content at us constantly. Well, don't worry. I plan to do my job, so that's at least one step. But I'll be adding to that miasma by posting our meetings, posting our content, and other information everywhere possible, as well as reaching out to the various traditional media outlets. But that's only the first part of the process, which is akin to the traditional concept of a sales funnel where you start to get people a little bit aware of things. Once you pique their interest, once someone comes to a meeting, how do we show them what makes us special? How do we get them to actually join and be a part of our team? One word, connection. AM Lockport has some elements that you can find in any self-improvement group, any paid coaching course, or really in any other Toastmasters club. But I think where we excel is connection. We love our club, and it's readily apparent throughout my experience here that we think it's great. Of course, like any great love, it can wane and wax for each individual at any given time, but it's there for sure. My goal as a VP of PR is to get the word out to the broader Niagara Lockport community. And beyond the normal PR routes, each of you individually can help dynamically showcase the personal sense of connection that makes our club great. A quality which I know many of you have honed over many years of continuous effort through various roles and other forms of participation. I mean, everyone's pretty dedicated, and the meeting attendance itself shows that, especially when compared to other Toastmasters clubs. Thus, I look forward to hearing your ideas, seeing your shares, and continuing to enjoy your heartfelt stories as we craft a dynamic PR strategy that can brighten the future of AM Lockport. Thank you, fellow Toastmasters.
Thank you very much, Samir, for your speech this morning. What I'm going to do right now is I'm going to give everyone an opportunity to let each one of our speakers, speaker number one, which was Carol Ann Halstead, speaker number two, Phil Russell, and speaker number three, Samir Rahman, please feel free to leave them a love note or something in the chat, private message each one of them and let them know how you enjoyed their speech. With that, I'm going to be going to our timer. Len Thornton, how did our speakers do today?
Well, Mr. Toastmaster, once again, I'm pleased to report everybody qualified. Carol Ann at 7:16, Phil at 6:24, and Samir at 6:36. Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you very much for that, Len. And as everyone is voting for their favorite speaker this morning and also leaving them a message, there's a controversy. And the controversy was who invented the very first ice cream sundae? Well, here's how the story goes. The biggest contender for the invention of the sundae was a guy named Ed Berners. Now, Ed was from Two Rivers, Wisconsin. And in Wisconsin, it was illegal to sell soda on Sundays. And he had a customer that came into his shop, and this was back in 1881, when one of the customers came in and said that they would like to have an ice cream float. He couldn't serve the soda, so he was trying to figure a way about it. Because in his ingenuity, what he decided to do was take the ice cream and put the syrup on top of it. He liked his concoction so much that he began selling ice cream with syrup in his store. Hence, he believes he invented the sundae. But Ithaca, New York did not want to let him have that honor, because the mayor of Ithaca told the New York Times, "We have the historical documents and they don't." He referred to an ad from 1892 that promoted a cherry sundae. So what was that all about? Well, it's believed that the inventor of the ice cream sundae was this gentleman who owned a ice cream store. His name was Chester Platt, and he had an ice cream store in Ithaca. And on Sunday, one of the priests came in and ordered a vanilla ice cream with cherry syrup on top of it. He had never made that before. After the priest ate the ice cream with the cherry syrup with the cherry on top, he said, "This is delicious. We should call this a sundae." So therefore, it ended up in the newspaper, but they later changed the spelling from Sunday to DAE so that they would not offend anybody. So that was back in 1892. So as you can see, people were getting offended by different things over 100 some years ago. Go figure. I don't know. Well, let's go into our evaluations this morning and see how our evaluators felt our speakers did. We're going to be starting with our first evaluator this morning, a gentleman who stepped up to the role and always ready to take on the challenge, Dave Licata. Dave, tell us how Carol Ann did today with her speech.
One moment, please. I have a domestic crisis. I'll be right back. I'm going to shoot them both.
Okay, so Dave is going to studio number 7 to take care of an important matter. With that being said, we're going to move along because I know Tom Moran doesn't need the extra time.
Hang on.
Oh, that's okay, Dave. Take a break for a minute.
Oh, my God. Now I got a phone call.
All right, you take the phone call, and what we're going to do is we're going to jump into Tom Moran. Tom, tell us about your cousin. How'd he do today?
Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster. I hope everything's okay at the Licata household this morning. My cousin Phil this morning did what I would term a masterful job at a presentation of his points. Phil is an accomplished speaker, and I guess there's a reason he's a DTM. Phil has given a number of speeches, and he knows how to do it. This was a lesson in giving a speech this morning. Phil took several points and put them all together to make up this speech. Now, how did he do this? He started out with a rhetorical question, which gathered us all in. Who is the wealthiest person out there? It got us thinking. It got us kind of relating to that, especially that term, wealthiest. Now, he went on then to cover several different topics that make a person wealthy. He talked about family. He talked about friends. He talked about activities. And he talked about something we very seldom think as making us wealthy in the sense of our health and living to 106. He talked about knowledge. Now, he did go on a little long about knowledge, but I think it was intended to make that point that to increase our knowledge and continue to learn makes everyone healthy, makes everyone interested. So he took all of these separate points. And he emphasized some of them by, I don't know if you noticed at one point, he raised his voice an octave when he was talking about one of the subject matters. He slowed it down. He used his hands. He also made it a point when he talked about, I forgot exactly what subject he was covering, but he said, "Give me a break." And he said this with a tone that would make us stop and think about what he's talking about, that it really bothered him, give me a break. And that also I noticed he did when he quoted a wealth of knowledge, and he got all flustered when his hands were going around and that. And it was so interesting. This was a real lesson in making a presentation. I think the one thing that settled it for me was because he had all these ideas and he put them, all these ingredients, he put them all together and he was churning them around because they're all separate ideas. He was turning them around and he came out with a nice, smooth, delicious closing. He reiterated the rhetorical question that he started with. Who is the wealthiest person out there? Masterful. Thank you, Phil. And Mr. Tabletop, that's Toastmaster evaluator person.
Thank you very much, Tom, for your evaluation this morning. Mr. Licata, we're going to go back to studio number 1. Please welcome Dave Licata, evaluator number 1, who flip-flopped with Mr. Moran, and Dave will be evaluating Carol Ann. Dave, take it away.
Good morning, Mr. Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters, and our guest, and a special Carol Ann. I want to salute Carol Ann for giving us a complete history of her pets. Now, we don't know if she was correct in chronological order. Only she knows that, and I want to recognize the fact that if indeed she did mess up her timeline, we had no way of knowing. So I want to salute her for being convincing this morning. And I also want to give her praise because her subject matter is so near and dear to so many. So that was an excellent way to rope in the audience because many, and being a veteran of Facebook, I can tell you that I just feel left out sometimes because I own neither a cat or a dog or a gerbil or anything. But that's just me. Now, where we can improve. I must apologize to the grammarian. I'm going to step on your toes. Carol, your filler word is and. And if you could rid yourself of that filler word and that goes for all of us, you'd be doing yourself a great favor. Because if you get rid of filler words, then your speech is crisper, your delivery is sharper, and it's more deliberate. So you certainly get high points for most of the speech, but that filler word is just murder. It just attracts so much. But I want to salute her again for that cold open. It was very much Saturday Night Live. She went right into it and roped us in. So I certainly want to give you credit for that. Personally, I want to thank you for reinforcing every reason that I don't have a pet. You did a great job of that. And on the other side of the coin, you reinforced for all the people that do love pets, you reinforced their reasons why they love those little critters. Mr. Toastmaster, thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Licata, for jumping in as our evaluator number 1. Without further ado, what we would like to do right now is introduce Kate Banks, or Kate will be evaluating Samir, who was our speaker number 3 and also our VP of PR this year. Kate, Take it away.
Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster. And Mr. Timer, wait a moment. I must talk about delicious ice cream. My first job was at Bear's Ice Cream Cottage up near Margot. If you remember that place, will you give me a little show of hands? Because I know some of you know that place. Bear's Ice Cream had the best sundaes. I worked there. Both my sisters worked there. They had from their farm their fresh raspberries and peaches and apples for the fall. The hot apple sundae was the finale of the season before we closed, before winter came in. But like Moclis, pistachio is my favorite gelato. That is delicioso. I'll eat any ice cream, probably peanut butter or chocolate. Something is my favorite, but gelato is the most delicioso. But let's focus on Samir. That's what I'm talking about, Mr. Timer. I'll get started. Samir, you excelled at several things today, as you always do. Two main things jump out. Again, always your vocabulary and your language. All of our members know that you are well spoken. I think your speed also today was better. You slowed down to connect to this early morning audience, and you gave us a topic that is universal to all of us, PR in general, but specifically for this club and your role this coming year. You may want to work on, I believe you read your speech, especially in some parts. You did it less today, very noticeable towards the beginning. And I thought, oh, this is good. You're really speaking to us instead of reading to us. But then it segued back into a bit of reading. I think you're an excellent writer. So your speeches are always well written, but they tend to be written to be read versus spoken, I think. That's an opinion, but I think that there's a big difference. You write the speech and then read it aloud, which can be effective, but it also can be limiting. And so to challenge yourself, I would suggest to write a speech next time, write your speech intended to be spoken versus written and read. The best way probably is to try to instead make some notes, brief notes, an outline, and that is your guide, your mileposts, your guideposts for your speaking. You expound on each main topic, so it's more spoken than the style of a blog or an article, because that's what I hear sometimes when I hear you speaking a speech. But when I'm socializing with you and we're having a conversation, you are an excellent speaker. And I think you could bring more of that conversational style in to your speeches. I'm eager to work with you on our executive leadership team this year and the challenge and opportunity that 2021 will bring to us. Thank you very much, Mr. Toastmaster, and especially Samir.
Thank you very much, Kate, for your evaluation today of Samir. Before I introduce our general evaluator to evaluate the evaluators, I'll give them a few moments because Kate just finished her evaluation. And I'm going to go to Mike Florio. Mike Florio, please unmute yourself. Mike, looking at our agenda and our attendees today, you did not have an opportunity to tell us what your favorite ice cream or an ice cream story. So Mike, you've got a minute. It's your minute.
Oh, wow. Thanks. Good morning, Mr. Toastmaster. My favorite ice cream, I think, is the hot fudge sundae. It has to be. You know, I love the soft serve twist, but I keep coming back to the hot fudge sundae and, you know, the chocolate mixed in with the vanilla, with the whipped cream and nuts, and I have to have the cherry on top. It was always, you know, all right, well, I would share it with somebody sometimes, and then most of the time I'd have to have it for myself. So that is definitely my favorite ice cream.
Thank you very much for sharing
the opportunity.
Yes. Now, does anybody notice this place behind me right here? Do you know what that was? They actually changed the sign, but that was
Tasty Treat.
That was Tasty Treat. Yes. They used to have the sign out there that said ice cream and yogurt. Yogurt, I don't think is ice cream, but who knows? But
Well, it's Tasty Treat right now out on Transit, right?
it is correct. Yes.
Yeah. Oh,
Yes.
yeah. Great stop.
Great stuff. Now, I know a lot of us have our favorite ice cream places to go to, but we'll get into that at another time because I think Dr. Gerald really liked this topic and I think he said he was going to use it. And well, I'm kind of sorry that I jumped in first and had the ice cream thought, but Dr. Gerald may expand on this in his next Toastmaster role. And I have a little bit of housekeeping that I would also like to do. We're going to get our timers report in one moment for our evaluators. But before I do that, I have a little housekeeping to do. This morning when I was typing up our polls, I was still in a little tizzy of awakenedness, and I misspelled Chris's first name. It's Chris with a K, and I realized that after I had already done it, but I did not go back and correct it. So with that being said, I know names are very important to all of us, and I wanted to get it correct. And Chris, please accept my apologies for the C instead of the K for your name. With that, may
Be
we
careful with that because Chris with a C, Chris Banks
is your
is
husband?
my husband.
I know.
So
Go figure. Chris and Chris, that's the Chris show. With that, I am going to go to our timer for a timer's report on our evaluators, please.
Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster. Well, we're 9 for 9 with our speakers today. All 3 of our evaluators qualified. Dave Licata at 236, Tom Moran with the buffer at 320, and Kate Banks-Orr at 220. Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you very much, Len. With that, I have our poll up for our evaluators. Please feel free to vote for your favorite evaluator this morning. And I would like to, at this time, the most important role of the meeting, our general evaluator. Please welcome Moklas Raman, our general evaluator this morning.
Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters. Yes, GE is supposed to give a feedback for what? For the improvement of the meeting and also some of the great qualities. Our Toastmaster did an excellent job of filling the roles. He worked hard over the week, and before the meeting, he again made sure every role was taken. So that is a kudos to you. And Larry, being an entertainer and etc., he keeps the meeting flowing very well. Even at the last moment, the changes between David Licata and in the order of the speeches, etc. It was very well managed. I thought professionally done. The other beauty of the meeting, especially with the Toastmaster, was it was very entertaining. Of course, delicious ice cream had the flavor in it, but overall the meeting was quite dynamic. I felt like everybody was able to participate and enjoy the flavors of their own ice creams as well as flavor of this meeting. The 3 evaluators did excellent job. I shouldn't say my favorite, but he is. David Licata is definitely an exceptional. I hope people have voted, right? Yeah, people have voted. So David Licata is an excellent. In my 20 years of experience, evaluators makes the club grow because they provide the feedback for each one of us, including my role as general evaluator, how to make people understand that we are here for improvement. This club, I think, has the best group of people who sign up. Evaluations by Tom Moran, again, his cousin or friend, was very personal and exceptional. A little bit more voice variation would be good, Tom, just so that you can match your cousin, because your cousin goes to voice fluctuation very well. Again, as I spoke about David, he's definitely technically challenged because he had to make adjustments, but that's okay. I mean, my own camera sometimes goes flaky, so I just have to live with it. But his evaluation was to the point. And I hope Carol Ann feels very encouraged to make those and disappear. Kate or Banks did an outstanding job again for Samir's speech. He again put a lot of improvement over there. Overall, I believe it was a very great meeting. And I'm having difficulty with the yellow, red, and green lights coming from Tom Mulhan. I'm not sure what his purpose is. Hopefully the club enjoys all these little details to have a very enjoyable meeting. Every table topic speakers used the word delicious, which was nice. And Larry makes as a past president and also a very dedicated member of this club, the whole meeting went very smoothly. Kudos to you. Improvement would be just the area of voice fluctuation. I think a lot of us, even me included, people have fallen asleep when I spoke. So it is important to raise the voice and slow the voice or fast the voice to make sure it's impactful. And that's my report, Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you very much, Moklas, for your report this morning as our general evaluator. Before we get into our roles this morning, we have a late joiner this morning, and it's our past president, Mr. Eric Schneider. So Eric, as you're joining us this morning, I'm going to put you on the spot. Eric, what is your favorite ice cream or ice cream flavor?
Good morning, everybody. My favorite ice cream is either cookies or cream or piece of cake. They're both are delicious. Or the milkshakes. We can have a cookies and cream milkshake. That's why I like it. If you go down to Lake Effect, I always enjoy having those yummy, delicious cookies and cream milkshake. And I'll probably be full by the end of it. But those are the two I like. Thank you.
Thank you, Eric. And thank you for joining us this morning. As we continue on for our reports, I have a question for everyone. Does anybody know what the most unhealthy ice cream is? What flavor or what it is? Which one did they consider one of the worst ice creams that you could eat as far as for your body? Nobody knows? Well, it's from Ben & Jerry's. It's one of the top 5, and it's appropriately named. It's called the Chubby Hubby. It is ranked number 3 as one of the worst ice creams as far as not flavor, but as far as for nutritional value. Not that ice cream is a nutritionally bad thing to eat. Who knows? With that, we are going to go on to our reports this morning. I am going to save our word master with his delicious word for today to see if anyone else uses it before the end of the meeting. I am going to go to our master, Sylvia Baptiste. Sylvia, tell us how we did today.
Well, as a group, we didn't do too bad. We had, let's see, Thomas had an Chris had an and a so, and she did very well because I think her question was the hardest of the 3. David Jones had one now, and a Jackie a so, Carol Ann a so, and a few and like David said, Ann was the connecting word. Tom Moran had one start over. Phil Russell, I noticed you had a filler word well in there a few times. A couple so's. Eric just came on, and I'm going to critique you too, Eric. Other than that, and myself, I had a few in that valuation. But you just reminded me with ice cream, as everybody was talking about their favorite. My brother's 70th birthday is coming up, and he loves Boston coolers. So I have to send him some Werner's ice cream because he does, or Werner's pop. He doesn't get that where he lives. So that'll be his birthday gift. Werner's, and he could buy the ice cream there.
Thank you, Sylvia. Now, speaking of, so you jogged a memory for me, Sylvia. When we were expecting our first daughter back 40 plus years ago, when my wife was pregnant, she craved two different things. Margie wanted a Coke cooler with chocolate ice cream. Now, it had to come from Lucy's Dairy, which was up on Hyde Park, and I believe it's Pierce Avenue over in that area on Hyde Park. But it couldn't be from anywhere else. I had to go there. It didn't matter what time of the day it was or anything. I needed a Coke cooler. So I'd go and get it and I'd bring it back. And then she really didn't want it at that point. But I think she just was trying to keep me busy. So I ended up drinking or eating most of those. But Coke cooler with chocolate ice cream, but it had to be the chocolate custard, not the hard ice cream. And they also had the Mr. Softy trucks that used to go around and went, and we used to chase them up and down the streets. With that being said, our grammarian today, how do we do on grammar, Mr. President? Thomas Houdwine.
Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster. I want to concentrate on just one good use and one thing for improvement for everyone. One wonderful thing I saw today was very specific use of words to give a better picture of what you're speaking about. A simple example is if I were to say a murderer, everyone, it's kind of a generic term, but if I say an assassin, well, now you know he's paid for it and it's his job. One of the things that was a good specific example of this was some use, excuse me, of crafting our speech. It's much better than writing our speech or creating a speech. We crafted it. So we took our time, we wrote it, and then we modified it until it was a beautiful work of art, which I think a lot of us do. One of the things I noticed today that needs improvement is the double use of conjunctions, and also and because. I'm not sure if the and was being used as a filler word, but it definitely seems to be because there was one use of 6 conjunctions in a row. And, so, and, but, and. Probably the longest sentence in the meeting. Not going to say who that was, but there were several of those where and was used to combine 4 or 5 sentences in a row. If you're finished with a thought, finish it. I guess if it keeps you away from ums, and we've gotten away from so's, but now we've gotten into conjunctions where we just continue sentences forever. And with that, back to you, Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you very much, Thomas. I would like to now go to our tech and gesture master, and that would be Marty. Marty, please let us know how we did with our tech and our gestures this morning.
Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters. I did notice, as far as the tech master role goes, I would like to report, I noticed that all the members improved on their levels of their device they used, whether it be their laptop or their phone, their eye level. Everyone was looked like, from my viewpoint, a appropriate level of height if they had their device. Len, I liked the use of the people that used the headset, Larry, Len, Phil. Few of the people had headsets. They looked comfortable and it looked like you could really focus and concentrate on who was speaking and hearing yourself speak. Gestures. We had good use of hand gestures, and the people that didn't use hand gestures used facial expressions to further enhance what they were talking about. And I'll briefly go through that. Larry, you used your hand gestures when you're talking about ice cream and when it was invented. And Sylvia, Jen, and David Jones all used facial expressions during their role this morning. Carol, I feel that you had a good opportunity to use hand gestures when you were showing how the dog used its paw and its nose to break the vegetable or the fruit out of the garden off of the vine. So there's an opportunity there. Dave, you used good facial expressions in your evaluation. Carol. Phil Russell used good hand gestures when he was talking about wealth and knowledge in our brain. Tom Moran, facial expressions, good use of facial expressions, evaluating Phil. Samir again used facial expressions, explaining about PR for AM Lockport. Kate used good hand gestures. You're explaining your favorite ice cream. Mr. Florio, welcome back. Mike used facial expressions when he was told us about his hot fudge sundae. And Chris used good hand gestures. You're describing the kids dancing and also when you described your favorite ice cream. Margot, good description of how to make milk punch. And last but not least, Jackie Kenny was using good facial expressions when explained how her bus driver would do the children a favor and stop on the way home from school at Tasty Treat. Back to you, Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you very much, Marty. Now, after such a delicious delivery from everyone this morning, we have 2 roles left to give reports. And I'm going to save the word master until last because right now it's time for a quiz. Please welcome Quizmaster Len Thornton. Da-da-da-da.
Our valued customers, Mr. Softy cares.
Okay, you can all hear that at mrsofty.com. That sound immortalized in our consciousness from growing up. Everybody unmute yourself if you'd like to participate in our quiz session here. France popularized ice cream, which was invented by the Italians. Who was Henry II's wife?
Catherine?
Marie Antoinette? No.
Was it Catherine?
Catherine who?
Amici.
De Medici.
Medici.
Yes, according to Larry.
Was it
Catherine de Medici.
was she part of the Medici family from Florence?
Yes.
Do not know.
Yes. 100%. Yes.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you, Kate.
There you go. What's the sometimes objectionable ingredient in Margot's ice cream punch?
Kool-Aid.
Kool-Aid.
What's wrong with Kool-Aid? I don't understand.
It was just a glorified milkshake. Instead of using syrup, they used Kool-Aid. I mean, this is dreadful.
That's a bona fide flavoring in my book. I'm sorry. It works. So the first flavor, as researched by Larry, of ice cream was what?
Orange blossom.
Orange blossom.
Orange blossom, which got me to remembering another one of my favorites. Anybody ever had that mixture of vanilla ice cream and orange sherbet? It's kind of swirled around. Perfect combination. Perfect combination.
It's a creamsicle.
It's the creamsicle, essentially, yeah. And BJ's Wholesale Club, it's going back quite a ways, used to carry a big tub of it. I don't know if it was 2.5 or 5 gallons. It was huge. My father would get one of those at the beginning of summer. It would be in the freezer all year, and you could just go and have as much as you want. Never got tired of it. Delicious. Most ice cream is consumed per capita by
New Zealand.
New Zealand.
New Zealand. I guess it's worth all the inflated real estate prices over there because, hey, they have their priorities in order. So we're number 2. Let's get on it, everyone. Carol Ann's, one of her dogs, helped harvest what crop?
Melons.
Melons. Digging with its paws. Yeah, very good. According to Phil, what's more important than your score in golf?
The fellow, your companions, your golf companions.
Who you're golfing with, exactly. For me personally, as long as there's somebody in my foursome who's worse than me, who can hit a few errant shots the way most of mine are, makes me feel a lot more comfortable and confident. So I agree with that. What is the thing that makes our club special, according to Samir? What makes AM Lockport so special? One word.
Community. Community.
Close. Close.
Action.
Connections. Yeah, you're not allowed to answer, Samir. Sorry. You had to wait for us to get it. Okay.
Guess I see.
So the Sunday was invented. I'm going with the New York thing because I'm a New Yorker. Okay. In what city was the ice cream sundae first created?
Ithaca.
Ithaca, New York. In what year?
Ugh.
1800s, isn't it?
1892.
1892. Yeah, 1800 is a little bit too vague. I don't think that would be on a multiple
Vague.
choice there. So the most unhealthy ice cream, actually not the most, the number 3 is by Ben and Jerry's, and it's called what?
Hubby, because I am
Hubby.
Chubby Hubby.
guilty.
And that got me to thinking, I forgot about several of my favorite Ben and Jerry's ice creams. I also like the what was the one that it was mentioned already? I'm having a brain fart here. David, you mentioned
Fish food.
Pardon me?
Fish food.
Fish food. Fish food is fantastic. The chocolate chunks in there. Oh my God. But I also love Cherry Garcia. Wonderful, wonderful flavor in that. That's all I have for today. You all did pretty well paying attention. Back to you, Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you, Len. As we're approaching the magic hour or half hour, we're going to go to our word master, Dr. Gerald.
Morning again, fellow Toastmasters. The second half of my report, the word did pretty good. Second half of the meeting, Larry a couple times, Phil in the chat, I give him credit. I'm not sure if it was in the second half or not. Samir, Kate 3 times, love Delicioso. Eric once, and Len once. If I missed anybody, my apologies. Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you, Dr. Gerald. One last thing before I turn it over to our president for our ribbon winners today. Something that I was waiting for someone to either ask in our quiz or from our tech and gesture master, something that was noticed today. Now, Tom Moran is always known for his glasses. Today, he pulled double duty. He not only was wearing a pair, he had a pair on top of his head. He had 2 pair of glasses on today. Tom Moran, great job. I make sure
You should always be prepared, I say.
Yep, you can
Okay,
always.
I think the second pair to me looked like little devil horns.
Well, you know, it is one of those mornings. And
It
with
looked a bit
that,
evil.
thank you to everyone who filled in their roles for me today. I appreciate it as your Toastmaster. Let's go to our president, Mr. Thomas Houdwine, for our ribbons today. Thomas, take it away.
Thank you, Larry. Excellent job as Toastmaster today, as always. Thank you, everyone, for being here. Our table topics winner today was Jackie Kenny. Our evaluator today, our winner for that, was Katie Orr. Her review of Samir's speech. The speaker of the day is actually a tie. So getting the same number of votes was Samir and Phil. Does anyone have any announcements to give out at this time?
I do, just briefly, that we do not have a Toastmaster lined up, and we need 2 speakers already for next week. I will set up the rest of the quarter, but if anybody would like to tell me now, or because we're at the end, just stick around for post Toasties and we can designate our roles for next week. Thanks so much, Mr. President.
Thank you, Katie. Yes, we tried some open meetings of signing up. Probably not going to ever happen again, ever. At least not under my year. Everyone will be assigned, including you, Dave. You'll get jobs all the time. We'll make sure you get every job. Not all the time. We want to hear you on table topics. Is there anything else I needed to talk about? I don't think so. And
Summer
with that,
picnic?
oh, please, I don't have the details on the picnic in front of me. I saw the email, but I don't want to get them wrong.
Currently, it's scheduled for August 29th here at the winery. Bring a snack to share. If you bring a alcoholic beverage, please make sure it's a New York State beer. If you do, I do have some New York State beer here on tap. I'll have the slushy machine going. Of course, we've got wine. And come and have a good time. Hopefully we'll be inside or outside, depending on the weather.
Okay, excellent. I do know that we're going to have an announcement soon as to the final details for our combined meeting for on-site and on Zoom, our integrated meetings. That's coming soon. And as Katie said, keep an eye out. Roles will be assigned for future meetings very soon. So we'll try and email that out to everybody probably and let you know when that's up. And with that, toast to another wonderful week with another wonderful group of people. Thank you all for being here. Remember, invite guests, invite people, invite your friends, your family, anyone you can think of, anyone that might need to be able to speak better in public. And with that, thank you and have a good week.